Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk about getting inspiration from other photographers. And what I mean by that is not so much looking at people's work and being like, oh, they use CTO and CTB gels together and I'm going to do that. That's more like the fine art of stealing, which I'll probably do a video about as well. But anyways, what I mean is being around people that are creative like you, and just hearing like how they see and view life. It really can be interesting because it helps you understand that, as artists, if we want to call ourselves that, we have similar yet different mindsets. And sometimes somebody will say something that will really put you in a position where you're like, "Wow, I never really thought about it like that before," and that can help shape you and create a space inside of you that helps you to move forward. So, I mean, I've mentioned before that I don't look at a lot of photography for inspiration. So I don't look at pictures and go, "Oh yeah, I'm inspired by that picture." I'm much more. I spoke before about music, writing. I like to see words or hear words and then close my eyes and imagine. What does that mean to me? What is that? And imagine how the light falls in this scene that's being described. And that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from, as far as the actual, techniques and how I want to light things and stuff like that. But then I have a group of photographers that I'm friendly with, and other artists too, I suppose, but specifically photographers. And just sitting down and talking to them about various things, either struggles that they're going through, or successes they've had, or the way that they're, kind of approaching their work now, or even just gear talk on some level, it gets you kind of thinking, because somebody might say to you, "Hey, I got this new blah 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 camera or whatever because I wanted to do these kind of shots," and then you start thinking, well, you're doing those shots. Oh, that's kind of interesting, and that's because your style is this, and you think this tool will help you, and again, it starts making you dig a little deeper into like where you come from, because I think that's important, right? Your style as a photographer or as a creative is more than the techniques or the tools you use, but the tools and techniques you choose do say something about what you're trying to produce your style, right? So this actually, it was funny. I was just having this conversation because I was at GaryCon and I was walking around, looking at some artist work, and I had a T-shirt on, and a couple of guys came up to me and they were like, "Oh, that's a Russ Nicholson drawing on your shirt." And I was like, "Oh yeah," and then we just started talking about it. They were like, "Yeah, you can see by the way that it uses this." And one artist was like, "Oh yeah, the way he does his hands." The other one was like, "The way this detail over here is," and they're like picking apart this thing. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's kind of like when I'm hanging out with photographers and we start talking about stuff. It's like everybody sees the same picture, or sees the same scene, or sees whatever, the same concept, but we all take a little bit something different from it, right? You may look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, he used f8." And that might be something for you. Somebody else might look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, he did this to get the model to do that, or took a low angle, or chose a different lens, or whatever." And that's what you take from it. And everybody takes from these bits and pieces their own thing. And hearing what somebody else takes from something, somebody who you respect, or I guess not to, takes from something, is super, super important. It kind of puts you in a position, because I know, like, if I look at a photographer I have a lot of respect for, and then they start talking about work or something else, and they describe a certain part of it that I wouldn't have noticed it before, I definitely start noticing it, because I'm thinking, well, why? Why did they think that was interesting, and how does that affect how they grow and how they move as photographers, right? So it's kind of a really fascinating place to be. And the other thing too is that you're all kind of living the same life. Like here we are, here I'm on my porch, but here we are as photographers going through life, doing our thing, either working with teams or working solo and creating different projects. And when we get together to talk, our experiences and our laughs and the things that we went through help us know that we're kind of not alone. I'm not the only crazy person out there doing these things, right? There's other people doing it, and they're doing it for their own crazy reasons, and we're all kind of like have this collective that we want to, I guess, express ourselves, right? I mean, that's what we're kind of doing. I could do it a lot of different ways, right? I mean, there's lots of things I could have done, to express myself. I could have, whatever. I could, write a song, or I could do an art piece or whatever. I would be pretty bad at those things probably, but you never know. But I chose photography, and why? What brought me to it? What brought me to photography on some level probably is interesting to people who also got brought to photography. What brought you there? Like as a surface thought, we're always like, oh yeah, well, it's because my aunt was a photographer, or I had this camera was given to me when I was this. But there's more to it than that, because there's a lot of people whose aunts are photographers, and there's a lot of people who were given cameras at a certain age. So it's not like that is what made you do your thing, right? It basically is just maybe the actual catalyst that got you the camera. It's not the thing that made you want to make this the thing that you do, right? There's something out there that did that, and maybe we don't even remember or know what it is for us. But being around other people that have that same, thought process or that same position makes us say, yeah, you know what? That kind of is interesting, and it makes you think about why you did it even more. Like if somebody tells me, oh yeah, well, when I was this age and I did this, and then somebody saw this and it actually gave me, or these people were the people that I thought were really cool, or maybe you're all people who weren't cool and you were just like stuck together. And that lack of coolness is what kind of made you, a group, and that group mind helped elevate you so you didn't feel alone, and you connect to that because of the photography. Maybe you just like when people say they love your work. Maybe you like when trains go by on a spring day. But the thing is that you have these things, right? These are the things that help build us up, and it's inspirational not so much in the sense that, hey, I want to copy or do the technique that photographer did, but inspirational in the way that, hey, we're together and we're a group and we're doing our thing, whether we do it actually together or not. I think that's super cool. And I know I've talked about community before, and I know Seth talks about this a lot, but like the other day we were out, we went to the deli, a bunch of us, and it was just really fun. It was super cool to like bounce war stories off each other, kind of talk about things that we've done together in the past, things that we might do together in the future, laugh about crazy things that we remember. Oh, I remember that camera that was whatever, blah, blah, or these kind of clients that do this. It really makes you feel like you're not alone. And that, I think, is important when you need to be inspired. Because if you feel like you're just kind of pitching everything into a void, I think after a while, you start to get a little bit like, okay, why am I really doing this? And sure, there's people that just shoot for themselves. And if you're one of those people, then that's awesome. But I feel like that can still be elevated by speaking with people. And also, I think what's really cool is the online community, because it used to be that, before, I mean, this is a long time ago, I guess there were photo clubs and stuff, but otherwise, like if you were just somebody creating photography on your own, you might not really encounter other photographers that often. And early on, like for me, I had other photo assistants that I would hang out with. Generally, if you were a photo assistant, the photographers weren't hanging out with you, and maybe later on in my career when I became friendly with them. But generally speaking, they're not hanging out with you. You'd go to the labs and talk to the lab techs there. You'd go to the rental houses and talk to those guys, and that was your community. And you would see, like, you'd go to a rental house because you had a friend maybe that was working there, and they'd be like, oh yeah, these people came in the other day and they did this, and it was so interesting, right? To know, like, oh really, that's what's going on here. And like, I mean, I used to frequent this one rental house because I lived in Miami at the time, and you never shoot inside in Miami unless you absolutely have to. For the fashion stuff, it was always on the beaches, right? So whenever it'd be a rainy day, all the teams would rush into these rental houses, and they'd buy rolls of seamless paper, but they'd use like one sweep of it, and then they'd leave it there because they have no use for seamless paper. They're shooting outside the rest of the week. So like I used to go by there all the time, and they'd be like throwing it away basically because they can't resell it, right? So I had so much seamless paper. Oh my God, it was amazing. But anyways, that's totally digress. But but again, I met those people, and those people were super cool, and talking to them was pretty awesome. And that helped inspire me to keep going. When they would be like, oh yeah, these teams are in here shooting this, and sometimes it's kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool because I'm doing something like it, so it makes you feel kind of validated. Or it's like, holy shit, they're doing something so different than me that I'm validated because I'm doing something different. Or maybe I need to change what I'm doing. Although don't do that. Do your thing. You be you. But Yeah, I've kind of gone around a little bit in circles, but I was kind of inspired this last week by hanging out with friends, and I thought that it would be cool to talk about. I mean, do you guys have photo groups that you hang out with? Do you see the internet or the chats and stuff as a way to kind of communicate with other people? Do you just talk shop with people that are other artists or other photographers? I'm curious if like how this spreads out outside the community I'm in, because I know that I do. Like if I hang out with my friends, you know, that are photographers in the industry. I mean, most of the people that I hang out with are either photographers, filmmakers, models, actors. You know, we're pretty much all, for the most part, in the industry, and just talking to them just about things that they did, because it comes up naturally. It's not like they're like, I did this thing and this will inspire you. It's more like they're just talking about their day, and like their day is interesting to me because it's my day too. So yeah, I mean, do you guys get that, or does the online thing help, or do you think it's nicer or better in person? I mean, I don't join a lot of chat groups and stuff so much these days, but early on, you know, when some of the very first forums were up, I mean, I definitely was on there talking to people, and I, you know, met many people that way from all over the world, and really got some cool, you know, inspiration and some cool friends and things like that from it. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. This was probably a little bit long, I don't know. Hopefully I'll be back on schedule shooting again. I was traveling and then under the weather, but I should try to be giving you guys more videos constantly. If there's something you want to see, please make a comment or send me a DM, and I will do it, because I'm going to get these up more regular now because it's warmer. I can sit outside. And there's a lot of cars going by. It is Saturday, so I guess that's probably why. You know, it's the first like super nice Saturday of the spring here. So if you guys are in the Northeast, enjoy this day. Although it's, by the time this goes up, the day will be over. But anyways, enjoy all your days, I guess. Hit subscribe, hit like, whatever, and I'll see you next time.